Many of us in this chamber can recall the days when kopi came mostly in recycled condensed milk tins, and a kopi si siu thai counts as a special order. Today, walk into any modern cafe, often run by young entrepreneurs, and you can select from a menu that ranges from a nitro cold brews to hand-brewed drip coffee with hints of cherry. The coffee beans will also be sourced from across the globe, catering to every palate and preference. No previous generation has ever had such high expectations for variety and customization. Nevertheless, our young Singaporeans are proving themselves as more mature than older Singaporeans sometimes give them credit for. Many young residents have shared with me that their perception of Singapore's value is not determined only by our plentiful economic opportunities, but also by the extent that Singapore is home to people and places they love. They understand that Singapore, as an advanced economy, is unlikely to experience double-digit economic growth, but can still sustain a good standard of living if we remain dynamic in our outlook. What we seek in the next bound of our development is greater involvement in shaping what they seek, the millennials, seek in the next bound of our development is greater involvement in shaping policies and the living environment that sets the conditions for our country's dynamism. They want the opportunity to customize aspects of their nation, just as they had grown accustomed to in many other facets of their lives. I believe our younger generations, younger Singaporeans, seek to revisit the social compact, where the government had a monopoly on master planning the public good and create a greater role for citizen participation in city design and policy formulation. We have taken steps in this direction. One example is HDB's Adventure Playground at Canberra. This playground had features conceptualized, designed, and built by residents living in Canberra Housing Estate in Sembawang. About 1,800 people were involved through design workshops, roadshows, and surveys. The outcome is a facility that is fun for young residents with design elements that reflect the precinct's heritage. These are encouraging signs. I spoke of YOLO earlier. Now I was told there is also FOMO, fear of missing out, a prevalent mindset of apprehension that you will miss out on something great. So to the young Singaporeans, there is huge potential for co-creation. Do not miss out on this opportunity to create the future with the government and forge a new social compact where every citizen has the opportunity to shape policies and public goods which they hold dear. This way, Singaporeans can take ownership of our country through the process of co-creation, and everyone can be proud to call Singapore home. The fourth strategy to reach out to the millennials is building loyalty. In this context, the implication for government is making Singapore where the heart is. Indeed, what gives our young Singaporeans a stake in Singapore will evolve. For a generation that is better educated, more traveled, articulate, and confident than their predecessors, the world is their oyster. Home ownership and stable employment might not be enough to keep our young Singaporeans anchored in Singapore. On the other hand, the evergreen demands on our small city-state, on its populace, have not gone away. We will still need every Singaporean son to defend us from external threats. As we remain a diverse society, mutual respect for Singaporeans of all races and religions to uphold racial and religious harmony remains non-negotiable. Life and living as a Singaporean comes with the responsibilities of citizenship. For our young Singaporeans whose skills are valued by major cities across the globe, what makes Singapore their home of choice? What drives our love and yearning for home, despite its imperfections and our household responsibilities? I do not profess to know the answer for all Singaporeans. For my family, the trials and tribulations we have been through and the unbreakable trust we have in one another has held us together over the years. By extension, forging a sense of common destiny and winning the confidence of its citizens are imperatives of every government and an essential ingredient for effective partnership between communities and their leaders. The fourth generation leadership of Singapore is no exception. Our role is to work together as we partner fellow Singaporeans in defining our chapter in the Singapore story and delivering on our communities to better the lives and delivering on our commitments to better the lives of every Singaporean, especially the underprivileged, the vulnerable, and continue to reduce inequality. As we tackle inequality head-on, we must be cognizant of what social mobility means for all Singaporeans. Many have spoken about the Gini coefficient. It is a popular index of a country's income inequality, but it actually does not tell us much about income distribution, and very little, in fact anything, about social mobility. The Gini is a relative measure, and therefore has many limitations for tracking key issues such as income or social class differences, and particularly how people are progressing in socio-economic terms. Take, for example, the United Kingdom, Sri Lanka, Uzbekistan, and Cambodia. They all share the same Gini index of 0.36. Yet, we know these societies are vastly different when you look at the social and economic conditions of people's lives across these countries. A better handle on measuring social mobility is needed to discuss meaningfully the causes of inequality and policies to tackle it. As Professor David Chan from SMU has highlighted, tackling social inequalities involves understanding people's aspirations and achievements. And he wrote, and I quote, "Social mobility issues are multifaceted and interdependent, thus requiring an integrated policy approach. This is undergirded by ensuring fairness and opportunities for all Singaporeans," unquote. At present, the government cannot afford to and will not hide behind excuses and statistics. Today, young Singaporeans have come of age in relative affluence, but would soon have to confront the cost of sustaining an aging society and closing the inequality gap. They too should have the opportunity to articulate their desired social compact. As a government, we stand ready to revisit the current balance between meritocracy and compassion to keep our policies in line with the social compact of the generation. Beyond influencing policy, I urge young Singaporeans to be the change you wish to see in the community. If you feel strongly for causes to improve the lives of the less fortunate amongst us, step up and take action. We see many more elderly in the community living alone and at risk of social isolation. They need the support, and our youth can respond. I'm heartened that increasingly, many young Singaporeans are answering this call. Recently, a group of youth calling themselves the Gift Community approached me for support on their project they call Baju Bazaar. Baju means outfit, where they plan to collect donated Hari Raya bajus or outfits to be distributed to lower-income Malay Muslim families to celebrate Hari Raya. They asked me for support for a location that they can conduct this distribution process. Of course, I offered them to hold the event at Wisma Geylang Serai. As a nation, let us take pride not only in an economy where people's physical needs and wants are met, but in a strong Singapore society, which we can all call home because of our individual and collective efforts to foster inclusion with fellow Singaporeans from different backgrounds.